Welcome back. Now, we continue with our Kenya at 60 series, and today NTV's Nina Shaban has the episode on micro, small and medium enterprises. Let's have a look at that special report.
Micro, small and medium-sized businesses are the workhorse of Kenya's economy, comprising of an average of 8 out of every 10 jobs created and accounting for at least 30% of the annual economic output. The journey for MSMEs in post-independence Kenya has been long, arduous and daunting. We walk you through 60 years of the MSME sector in Kenya, starting off with a conversation with the Cabinet Secretary of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Simon Chelugui.
Why this administration identified this as a theme is because now we have been around, we have governed ourselves for 60 years. The time is now for Kenyans to now make the next leap step for economic freedom. Economic freedom begins with empowering the people. It means we are coming up with proper programs to empower, to inspire and to encourage and also support development.
In 1965, the famous sessional paper number 10 on African socialism came into being. In many ways, it was post-independence Kenya's first attempt at a policy for the micro, small and medium-sized business environment. The sessional paper lays special emphasis on fostering the growth of cooperatives and cottage industries. The policy provided for two crucial programs for Kenya's MSME sector: making capital available to Africans with small down payments and at low interest rates through such organizations as the Land Bank, the Agricultural Finance Corporation, the Industrial and Commercial Development Corporation (ICDC), promoting producer, marketing and consumer cooperatives and training people to run them so that larger scale opportunities are opened to Africans with limited capital. The sessional paper further paved way for an expanded mandate of the ICDC for the development of African-owned industries and commercial enterprises, and training facilities for African entrepreneurs would later be opened in Nakuru. This led to the establishment of the Kenya Industrial Training Institute. The stride registered by sessional paper number 10 of 1965, notwithstanding it was its successor, the sessional paper number 1 of 1986, which is deemed to be Kenya's first policy document to recognize the MSME sector. The third objective of sessional paper number 1 of 1986 stated, "The leading role of the informal sector in creating jobs and incomes is recognized and policies are announced to support its development." The term informal sector is used to include self-employed and very small-scale firms of generally less than 10 employees. It was also at this time that the government began comprehensively reporting on the number of jobs in the economy attributable to small business ventures, as can be seen in this extract from the National Economic Survey of 1987, with indication that the sector was posting steady growth of employment opportunities. Following this sessional paper, the government undertook a number of interventions to catalyze the growth and development of MSMEs. This included, where the cost of machinery did not exceed 20 million shillings, establishment of the District Development Fund in June 1987 to support growth of MSMEs at the grassroots, establishment of Rural Enterprise Fund in December 1989 to finance Jurikali business ventures. In late 1987, President Moi's administration set up a task force to look into the welfare and operation environment of micro, small and medium-sized businesses in Kenya. The report generated by the task force would then form a basis for sessional paper number 2 of 1992 on small enterprises and Jurikali in Kenya. It is the first policy document that defined an MSME as any business with between 1 and 50 employees. Among its proposals, the 1992 sessional paper sought to review the licensing requirements for small enterprises with a view to improving their operational environment, formulates a national policy for small-scale business-driven export, facilitate buyer-seller linkages to support small-scale businesses identify markets for their produce. In the 21st century, the operating environment of MSMEs in Kenya has been defined by two documents. The first is the Sessional Paper No. 2 of 2005 on the development of micro and small enterprises. By the time it was being developed, employment by MSMEs was estimated to have grown from 4.2 million in 1999 to 5.1 million. It was estimated that the country had 1.3 million registered MSMEs, and the sector was at the time accounting for 18% of Kenya's economy. And the Sessional Paper No. 2 of 2005 identified three priorities. The first was fostering linkages between MSMEs and large corporates to facilitate knowledge and technology transfer. The second was addressing funding gaps and de-risking lending to businesses. And the third was addressing the human capital shortages that MSMEs were confronting. It is Sessional Paper No. 2 2005 that finally paved way for Kenya's first act that was dedicated to the micro, small and medium-sized enterprise segment of the economy. The Micro and Small Enterprises Act No. 55 of 2012 was the culmination of 5 decades of policy formulation around MSMEs in Kenya. The policy was instrumental in standardizing the definition of MSMEs in the country with a view to creating a level playing field on which financiers assess them before lending. A micro-enterprise would be defined as any whose annual turnover did not exceed 500,000 shillings and which employed less than 10 persons. A small enterprise would be defined as any whose annual turnover ranged between 500,000 shillings and 5 million shillings and which employed between 10 and 50 persons.
The intervention that we are pushing hard is single-digit borrowing rate. The second issue is aggregation. Individually, you can produce so much. Collectively, we can produce so much. And we can utilize that quantity, that amount of production to negotiate for better prices and access to a better market. Majority of our export markets are asking for reliable supply of certain commodities, which at individual level may not manage. The final one is, as a ministry, we are working on a training program, capacity building of these MSMEs to understand basic accounting methodology, keeping records, to be financial savvy or tech savvy.
And all of a sudden, the world was forced to come to a standstill.
If we continue to behave normally, this disease will treat us abnormally.
2020 was a unique year as the MSME sector, together with the rest of the economy, took a significant hit from the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. With disrupted supply chains, lockdowns and challenges in accessing markets, MSMEs bore the brunt of the pandemic. It was against this backdrop that in September 2020, the government developed the Sessional Paper No. 5 of 2020, targeting MSMEs. The Sessional Paper, unlike its predecessors, focused on external risks. It prioritized mitigation of business external risk, including those that are emerging and cross-cutting in nature, conducive regulatory environment at the national and county levels, promotion of formalization.
We are the best country in cooperative movement in Africa by membership, by assets, by loan book, and by deposits. 14 million of Kenyans are in cooperative movement, which is over 15%, which is over 25% of our total population. We have 27,000 cooperatives registered in Kenya, and we have an asset base on SACCOs alone of 1.5 trillion. 30% of Kenya's deposits, savings, is through the cooperative movement. Our loan book is 980 billion, and our deposits is 1 trillion. 98% of our enterprises in Kenya are actually MSME. That means Kenya is an MSME country. And we have the 2% corporates and 98% MSME.
According to official statistics, there are about 7.4 million micro, small and medium-sized businesses and their ventures in Kenya, 80% of which operate informally. 5 decades after the country's debut policy document targeting MSMEs, 8 out of 10 of these businesses rely on family or friends as their main source of capital, pointing to the grave challenges MSMEs still face in accessing finance. What's even more worrying is half of all the MSMEs close within the first year of operation.